Welcome back to Cephas Unscripted. Once again, Brett, just the two of us. Brevan, guy's man down. He's very sick at the
Why?
moment. You you heard him in the previous episode. The guy was in survival mode. So once again, he is out for tonight's episode. I mean, to be fair, he does look like he might be on his deathbed. So it's one of those things. Brett, what you saying, brother?
Yes, let's hope he's not on his deathbed. We kind of need him for our next episode.
Yeah.
But yes, the Oka swine flu. It's a South African. He's about the sixth person that I've heard of that has swine flu. But we're gonna miss him for this episode because it's quite an exciting one. We spoke off air about what we want to do, so take us away.
Yeah. First and foremost, people, at the time of recording, we are 5 subs away from being only 40 away from 1,000. So once again, we appreciate your love and support. This one is one that everyone can interact with. So the big topic of discussion is the current state of rugby. Not South African rugby, not Irish rugby, not franchise rugby, just rugby as a whole. And this is off the news that came out end of last week, where we saw there's a couple of law changes. 3 law changes to be exact. The first one, the Dupont rule gone, the croc rule gone, and then calling the scrum off a mark. Now, firstly, we'll get into that a bit, and then we'll talk as a whole of the current state of rugby, because it is very interesting if you look at where rugby was and where it is now in terms of the fan engagement, how many people are actually creating content about it, and just the overall game as a whole. So, Brett, first and foremost, we'll get to the one that we want to target first. Dupont rule gone. Thoughts?
Yeah, happy it's gone. It was actually a little bit a confusing rule to start with. So I'm glad they've simplified that rule. That rule, it's the only rule that in of the 3 law changes that I completely agree with. I think that it was too confusing. The fact that when you don't retreat and the person that has the ball can run 5 meters and then you onside again, that it made it like fans would blame refs for having shocking games because they didn't understand that rule. And that was a rule. So I'm happy that has gone back to its old ways. So yes, I think World Rugby got that one spot on.
Yeah, I fully agree, because it hasn't been a rule that we've seen for too long, but what we have seen of it was a complete shambles. We spoke about it when we did our breakdowns of the Six Nation games, and we saw it a lot. What was that? Was it in the game France versus Scotland, where we saw it like 3 or 4 times in one game? Which just the boys stand still in the middle of the field, they kick it to one end, wait for the guy to move 5 meters. There was a time, I think it was Finn Russell that caught the ball, and he literally just stood still and no one advanced for like 10 seconds. And that was kind of just the epitome where it was like, wow, what are we actually watching?
Yeah, that was the reason for the law change, I think, because more teams were going to catch on and do exactly that. Like, I'm not kicking this ball. You guys need to work. I'm not going anywhere. And I think that's what kills that rule.
Yeah. So we talk about, or people talk about, they want to see running and exciting rugby and stuff. That would have taken away from the game massively, where a guy knows, listen, all of those guys are on side as soon as I run 5 meters. So when a guy kicks a ball and no one plays those guys on side, he's got open field to run into, which is what we want to see. So I fully agree with that rule being taken away. Secondly, the croc roll. Now, it's weird because there's so many ways you can get penalized at breakdown, and we've just added another one to it. I know it can be dangerous, the croc roll. It's for when the guy goes over the body and rolls over, right? For the ACLs and stuff. I think that's just incidents. There's no guys that really go out and try and smash a guy's ACL by doing a croc roll, right? They try and do it as safe as possible to avoid the head, and that's why they grab the body.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a, like, I can see why they did it. Do I think it was necessary? No, not really. Brett, thoughts?
Yeah, so I this rule, it bugs me because me as a fly off, when I'm the only person that's going into a ruck and I see a guy that's 125 kilograms standing there over the ball and I have to clean this guy out, doesn't matter how fast I run in, I'm not going to clean this oak off the ball. So croc roll is, I'm guilty. I did it a lot. It kind of helped me get the player out of play. So this is taking away from the little guys. So this is quite annoying to me because now what do I do? Like that was my way out.
Exactly. Let's say, for instance, you see the likes of a Malcolm Marks over the ball, and he's trying to jackal the ball, and you have to clean. How do you clean Malcolm Marks, who's bent over, his head is down over that ball? Like the best way to get rid of him is to roll him over. That's how you
Yeah,
break his balance. You're not gonna get a guy that's literally crouched down, squeezed back, and if you do that, you have to get some momentum into it, and you better be careful not to smash his head as well. So now
yeah,
it's like, well, how are you gonna? Do you just concede the penalty? Do you just say, listen, okay, he was there first, instead of actually trying to save your own ruck?
pretty
It kind
much.
of feels a bit. How do you get rid of this guy? What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think? Let's say you are in that position as you just mentioned. How would you get rid of him now? Like, what would your tactic be?
Pretty
Pull him
much
over,
try.
maybe.
No, you're not allowed to do that either. So pretty much try and get your shot your arm underneath him and try and lift him over. But
Put him
I
down
can't
safely,
see.
though.
Yeah, but I can't see that happening either. I think just a guy like me, I'll just have to accept defeat. Like, there's nothing I can do anymore. There's no rules that count in my favor now. I can try and clean the oak, but I'm not going to budge him. I mean, science just dictates that he's going to be overpowering me every single time. So accept defeat and move on.
Yeah. The big thing that jumps to me, Brett, is we've spoke about, you sign up for rugby for big hits, accidents happen. It's a physical sport. How
Mm.
many guys have truly been injured because of the croc roll? Not too many. Like,
No.
I understand head collisions in terms of the tackling. I can, even though we don't like it, we understand it because we see so many head collisions. We see the long term effects it can have, and accidents happen. It's never nice seeing a guy kill his ACL or whatever, but it's part of the game. It is what happens. It's what happens when you play a physical sport. Just
Yeah.
like when you played for, the simplest example that comes to mind is when you play field hockey, right? That we have here as a sport. A stick can easily collide off another stick, hit you in the head, stitches, blood everywhere, for example. That is kind of what you sign up for when you play a dangerous sport. Do you think this is part of the debate of the game's gone a bit soft, or do you just think it's all just player for player wellness or healthiness, whatever, player
So,
welfare?
yeah, so how I see it is, and I might ruffle up some feathers here, is that yes, the game has gone soft, and it's become a bit of an issue for me. So the minority, the minority rules in modern day society, the minority rules. Majority doesn't get a say anymore. One incident and a rule gets changed. And yes, people will say, but that incident could have been prevented, and it could have been zero incidents. I get that. But when you, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old watching rugby, or let me say when I was a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old watching rugby, um, say 94, 95, those Springbok players, they were rucking each other. That excited me, and that is why I started playing rugby. It's because I wanted that physicality, that like legally getting away with like assaulting someone, if you will.
Mm.
Um, and now these days, there's nothing you can do anymore. You can't. Just the rules are so. Let's just say this. I'm happy that I'm heading towards the last part of my rugby career. Because I think in 5 years' time, it's going to be so soft, nobody wants to play it anymore.
The thing is, you just look at it and you think there's a bit too much rules. It's too tough almost to understand it. You want to get new people invested in the game. You don't want them asking the question, why was that blown? Why was that blown? Why was that blown? Why was that blown the whole time? And the only reason people would be saying we're whining about it is because we care so much about the game. We literally live and breathe this game. We watch it every
100%.
single weekend. It's the thing that excites us. And we
Yeah.
don't want everything just to be, because that's just another thing that the ref can blow now. Instead, that's taking away from how well you play.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there was too much danger in it. Yeah, could have caused injuries, but that's what you sign up for. Once again, that is just part of the game.
I
But
agree.
anyway,
Doesn't happen that often either.
exactly.
Yeah. It does annoy me about how things are. Like every year there are new rule changes. Like, yes, I get try and make the game safe and stuff, but stop changing the rules every single year. It's becoming so frustrating. Like, I did a referee course last year. I had to do another referee course this year because
Yeah.
of all the rule changes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about the ACL injuries, there's not many that comes from the croc roll alone. Like you look at Bongi's injury in the World Cup final, that wasn't a croc roll from um, Shannon
Sure.
Frizzell. It looked like he just jumped in on the ACL. If you look at Darcy Graham just jumping in on who was it?
Can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was the center of the All Blacks. Was it Sheck? Tuvasa Sheck or something like that.
No.
Also, just that's how the ACLs happen with either a bad tackle or they see exposed leg and they jump in on that leg, not from the croc roll. Okay. Anyway, moving on from that, the final rule, and this one is probably the one where Brevin was really excited to do this one, but obviously he's not here. No more scrum off the mark. Now, I just want to read you a comment that I saw on Twitter before you go. And when I saw this, I thought it was so brilliantly put, right? So the tweet was put out by the Rugby World Cup, that page, right? On the 17th of October, 2023, after we beat France. The tweet is Mark to Scrum, bold but brilliant by Damien Willemse, right? They tweeted
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Then Matt Pierce from South Africa quote tweeted
Yes.
it and said, on 17 October, it was bold but brilliant, complete with the like clapping emoji. From 1 July 2024, it is outlawed. I would have thought that bold but brilliant is something that fans want. And that is
Yes.
brilliantly put. How can you
Mm.
compliment something and it's never happened again and then you get rid of it?
Yeah.
Because I can't see South Africa or any team calling a scrum for every single mark. That was a bold but brilliant once off decision. You might see it once or twice when you're chasing the game. Because in the end, it's a set piece that you get from it. What happens from set pieces? They run the ball. They run the ball.
Yes.
And the whole reason they made this thing was to say, listen, we want more exciting and running rugby. Well, you're going to get a kick or a tap and run now. And no one's taking a tap and run from their own 22. Brett,
No.
I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, so that people often in our comment section say, "Oh, look, Safa's claiming they're the victim or whatever," but this is 100% focused on South Africa. The fact that they literally created a law change, which would always benefit South Africa, but not always actually, because you're not gonna do that. The only reason why they did that was because they found that the French forwards are lazy and they're not getting anywhere and they're getting to rest. Kick. The forwards are resting. So South Africa decided, you know what? You're not going to rest. You're going to work now. And they made them play rugby. They literally
South Africa actually made it more exciting.
Exactly. And everybody spoke about it. It was a highlight, a talking point. But because the Northern Hemisphere did not create the exciting talking point, now it's a bad thing. Now it's outlawed because it wasn't created by them. That's how I see it.
It's crazy how you can applaud something like World Rugby itself applauds it and then makes it outlawed. It is ridiculous to me. And I
That's
understand the debate around scrums take up too much time, right? Because we watched, um, like obviously you didn't watch the full game, but the Stormers played the Dragons this weekend, the weekend that just passed, and that ref blew. I think it was almost 11 scrum resets. Do you know how much
yes.
time that is? It is ridiculous. I was watching the game with my father, and I was like, just give a free kick to one of the two teams or a penalty. Just because you're resetting every single scrum here. Every
Yeah.
scrum almost felt like it had a reset. And I understand the debate in terms of scrums take up too much time. Same with the kick at goal. That's why we came in and said, listen, if you want to do scrums and stuff, and you want to not take away from the game in terms of minutes played, then you would stop the clock until the ball has been put into the scrum. That is the
Exactly.
easiest way to save time when it comes to rugby, because taking away the scrum is non-negotiable. I love the fact that we have 800 kilograms to a ton of human beings slapping into each other, literally trying to force their dominance onto each other. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think it's one of the most underrated things in our game is a
Yeah.
proper scrum battle between the props, because a good scrum gives you so much momentum, gives you that go forward ball. Because if you think about what we did against France, we won that scrum, got a scrum advantage. We ran that ball out of our own 22, got massive gain line success from it, massive meters. And that is what we want to see from rugby. That is what you get from a set piece like a scrum and a line out. And I think it's ridiculous for them to say, listen, you can't mark in your own 22. If you want to take that risk, take that risk. That's a risky decision to make.
Exactly that. It's a risk, and you shouldn't be penalized for putting yourself on the back foot.
Exactly. That's exactly what we mean. Like there's so many other things that you can bring up that is just like the safe way of playing in terms of kicking the ball. Make a rule you can't kick the ball more than 3 times without running it once, whatever. I don't even care. Because that is
Yeah.
safety options. But this is a risky move. And that is
Yeah.
why we love it. That's why everyone talked about it, because it's bold. It's out there. Now, I know we vented a bit, but this brings us to kind of the main point, and it's the current state of rugby. Just the way that we reacted now just shows you how much we cared about the game.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, and you can give it a short answer if you want to. On a scale from 1 to 10, how has the game evolved in the past couple of years for you? How good is the game now compared to what it has been a couple of years ago? Remember, South Africa was shit, so try and be unbiased, because I know it was bad a couple of years ago.
Okay, so let me tell you this. So when I went through in my career through some of the most absurd law changes ever. Like there was a thing called the experimental law variations. This was when I was still in school, where Heinrich Brousseau was the be-all and end-all of Springbok rugby, where he would steal everything, and they try to change the law. Yeah, and they try to change the law in a way that South Africa would not benefit from that, because he single-handedly pretty much beat the British and Irish Lions with how he like ran the game and like how he stole balls.
Tackle, no release, just get straight on the ball.
Exactly. But again, because of South Africa, because he's South African, the laws had to change. Like now there's daylight and all that stuff. But I think that rugby currently, and I'm going to sound very hypocritical now, is alive and well. And I think that, yes, World Rugby got a few law changes wrong, but they also got a lot right. So
Yeah.
they also made it more entertaining for the little guy, the guy that doesn't watch rugby like you and I do, like a religion. So I think that's where they did well, and they are trying. Sorry, they are trying. So I'll say, on a scale of 1 to 10, rugby is currently at an 8 of positivity.
I fully agree, and that is why we spoke about the first segment that we went through, because we don't want the hype of rugby to dial down because of small changes that happen, because we want to see that risk in the game in terms of a scrum when you 22 meters away from your own goal line. And yes, as you mentioned, they've got a lot right in the last couple of years as well, just as much as they've got a couple of wrong decisions. But I think rugby is in such a healthy spot at the moment. Let's just look at this channel alone, right? This channel alone, a couple of years ago, wouldn't have any real potential. The game felt like it was in a bit of a stale position, in a stalemate position. And you look
Yes.
at the way that the game has grown in the last couple of years, with the way that, for instance, France has come through, Ireland has come through, South Africa is back to their best rugby, New Zealand's still up there. Obviously, the Wallabies has dropped off a bit, but that's kind of gotten a lot of eyes on the game because they're like, what has gone on with the Wallabies? There's a lot of
Yeah.
talk around
Yeah.
rugby. Japan obviously getting their upset victories. You've got this story about Portugal in the World Cup. You had the story about Eddie Jones going to America, trying to get America involved in rugby as well. You look at all the content creators on TikTok, on YouTube, going crazy. You look at the engagement. Look at the engagement that we got on our channel. Let me just go into one of our analytics. Literally, the previous video at the time of filming, it's just been up for, I think it's what now, 10 hours. It's
Yeah.
already got 1.6 thousand views, 45 comments, 64 likes. 2 videos ago, 2,000 views, 140 comments. That is people that want to engage. And I
Yeah.
absolutely love that for the game, because that's what we want. Even though we banter each other, we care about the game. That's why we get the, and same with the fans. Like all of us, we love the game, and that's why we engage with it. And I think it's in an absolutely beautiful spot. Now, the question to you, Brett, how do you grow the game even further than it is at the moment? Because that's what you need. You always need growth.
Well, firstly, from when you started speaking now, it needed to be slow music, building up, because you got me riled up there. That was actually very well said. So pat yourself on the back. That sounded rehearsed, which is wow. That was very well said. You
Because
could
but
like
it's not real. Someone, if you
yeah.
got a company out there and you need marketing or a PowerPoint presenter, I'm your guy.
Yeah, clearly. MC casual bias.
Correct.
CBR in the house. Yeah, sorry, what was your question again?
So how do we grow the game even
Oh,
further than where we are now? So we don't go back to, let's say, the state of 2016, 17.
so this is something that I've been passionate about for quite a while, and I think that it must happen. The tier two teams need a shit ton more exposure. They
Yes.
need to be included in everything. Like put make a Six Nations of tier two teams. Make a rugby championship of tier two teams. That could be the B division, whatever. Promotion relegation games from if you lost the person swap change, do all that stuff. Yes, it could be difficult with traveling and stuff, but we don't care how you sort your logistics out. It just gives the people what they want. We want to see
Mm.
more tier two teams doing well. We want to see smaller nations included. Like in the women's game, for example, the other day I watched Madagascar playing against South Africa in the like qualifying of the World Cup. Like, can you imagine that like in the men's game as well? I mean, this is the
Yeah.
stuff we want to see. Like, show that stuff. Yo,
Mm.
I wish.
Yeah, the innovation needs to happen, and I thought a big step was this Club World Cup. I know a lot of people are opposed to it, but that's kind of, you need to risk it a bit, right? And as long as it doesn't become a thing that's every year, you have to give people something to look forward to, I guess, almost every year. So if you have a Rugby World Cup, then the year after you have the British and Irish Lions, then the year after that you have the Club World Cup, and then you have a year off, and then you have the World Cup again, right? So it's always something for people all over the world to kind of look forward to. That is the big thing. And for us, how we grow the game, for instance, is just to keep on talking about it, keep the name of rugby alive. As if it wasn't for all the fans all around the world engaging in videos and covering different tournaments, obviously there would be no hype around the sport. Like all of
Yeah.
us combined, we grow the game. Um, I was going to say something, but I totally lost it now. I was going to pose an actual decent question out there. Brett, do you have anything to add? Just
Yeah, it
just
might
what
come.
I actually think.
it might come back to you at some point. But yeah, we've obviously asked this question to some other content creators. Not that we consider ourselves content creators, but we're just passionate rugby blokes that want to talk about the game. And we heard that some people with their delusional mindsets that have come up with that they want to see more players painting their nails and coloring their hair and being all weird and stuff. So it can include the shall we call it the woke mob to also engage in rugby, and that for me is the complete opposite of how I feel we should promote the game and how we should take the game going forward. Because yes, like people don't like toxic masculinity. Not that that's even an actual word, but men play rugby, women play rugby. Let's keep it at a level where we can
I
where we can
completely
all feel.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
completely get what you mean. And
yeah,
the discussion was also like, we're not trying to change rugby into football or soccer, right? We see it a lot with football and soccer. It's a different sport. When you base a sport on pure physicality, trying to stomp people, and and it's a much bigger game when it comes to international than like soccer or football is more. I'm just going to say soccer because it's easier for everyone to know what I'm talking about. It's easier for people or they're more passionate about their franchises. Let's say Arsenal or Man United. They want to watch that instead of watching, for instance, England or
yeah,
France playing soccer, right?
yeah,
When it comes to rugby, we are passionate about our franchise just as they are passionate about the international games, but you're more passionate about your international game. And if you want to color your hair and paint your nails, go for it. I mean, express yourself. But when it comes to, like, for us, I don't want to see a guy with painted nails and pink hair, for instance, wearing the Springbok jersey. Not
yes,
because I don't want to see him painting his nails. You can paint it right after the game, but you don't want anything taking away from that jersey. Now, obviously, we've grown up in a country that's a bit more traditional in terms of this when it comes to the rugby. We've never seen it on our rugby field. We've never had, for instance, the likes of, let's say, Daimani before. Like, he's very expressive for those type of things. We've never seen it. So it's tough for us to accept that because I don't want to see Daimani running out on the field on his first game with "Stay Cool" painted in his hair. Like, it just
yeah,
feels weird. It feels like he's taking away from the jersey. You don't want to
exactly,
play the game and then after the game um, hear about Daimani's hair color instead of hearing the box is good or bad performance. You get what I
yes,
mean? So
100%,
so that is kind of the
100%.
the start. If Darmani wants to paint his hair 1 minute after the game, do it. I don't
Mm,
care, right? But not while you're representing the jersey. You don't want anything taking away from the
yeah,
jersey. Do you kind of agree in terms of that?
100%. It's 100% because it's like when you South Africans, not just rugby, but I'm gonna tell every single person that does a sport in South Africa, when you get to represent South Africa and you get that green blazer or that green tracksuit that says South Africa at the back, it's your highest achievement ever. If you're going to the Olympics, if you're going to everything, you won't see this from people because that is the highest honor you can get as a sportsman in South Africa. And we cherish it a lot. And yes, I get there will be people that are, in my mind, weird that would want to change that and want us to see people with pink hair and whatever stuff like that. But not, like you said, not when you're representing your country, not when you've achieved the highest role in your
Yeah.
sport.
That's basically what it comes down to, and I would love to hear, especially because we have an international audience that listens to this podcast. I would love to hear their opinions. Obviously, we have a large Irish audience here as well. I would love to hear what the Irish would think if their guys came out with let's say pink or blue hair and painted nails. Like, what would your opinion be on it? Because I don't think that is kind of a way of growing the game. I don't think that reaches a new audience. Where I think you grow the game in terms of getting people more engaged and
Mm,
fired up for the rugby itself is like we've mentioned before. When you've got a coach or the likes of Eamon Etzebeth in the press conference, instead of saying, listen, we respect them, they're a good team. We know you respect them and they're a good team, but that doesn't get you riled up for this game. right?
Yeah.
We want to hear, listen, we know they're a good team, but they don't scare us. We are coming out there to smash them because that is the mentality that those boys anyway have. We want someone to speak their mind in terms
Uh-huh.
of in a rugby perspective. So you don't go and stand and get personal. I know I mentioned before, like MMA and UFC, we're going to fuck him up, and you talk about his mom and his dad and his brother and his sister and whatever, right? I don't want that. Just purely on rugby, where it's like we are going to smash them. We've taken our losses before. We've ate our humble pie, but we don't want to. We don't plan on staying humble. We are the
Yeah.
best, and we want to go out there and prove why we are the best. I would love to hear a bit more personality like that in press conferences. I think that's a much better way, just in rugby, to express yourself and promote the game. Would you agree with that?
Completely. And actually, on that topic, I heard that. Um, so Rassie Erasmus obviously has extreme respect for the All Blacks and their culture and their last 100 year of history. They in the world they are the most successful sports team in the world when it comes to
Yeah,
win ratio. Like there's no team that comes close to them. And Rassie says that he wants that for South Africa. He wants to 50 years down the line, he wants people to almost forget about the All Blacks and talk about the multicultural South Africa that has a 90% win record. And these Oaks have 7 World Cups and they are the greatest team of all time. That's what he wants. And that's exactly, him and I share the exact same mindset when it comes to that. And that is, wow.
yeah, it's brilliant, and I truly think that even the All Blacks would respect that because they would want the same for their country, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to be known as the best. Just because you say you want a team to be irrelevant, that's how good you want to be, doesn't mean you're disrespecting them, right? You can still be a bit cocky or arrogant and talk about your dreams without trying to slander the other team, right?
If
Even though if you
anything,
come out,
yeah, if anything, it's not disrespect; it's massive respect because you know they
yeah.
have set the bar. They are they are the current bar setters that makes us want to be on their level or higher. So that's not disrespect. I think that's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most people listening to this would totally agree with that sentiment. You want to be the best. You want to hear your coaches and stuff say you are the best. We are tired of this um, media trained stuff where it just feels a bit boring. Like, when was the last time that you actually listened to a rugby press conference and you said, "Wow, that was a good press conference"? You hear it in other sports. You don't necessarily hear it in rugby, and that kind of needs to change a bit. You need to get something that gets out there, that gets the random person just to say, "Listen, okay, well, I've heard this. I actually want to see how these big boys go and collide against each other." And then it's the teams on the field's job to actually put on a spectacle in terms of
Yeah.
really playing the game. I just remembered what I wanted to say, but it's a long time ago. I just wanted to hear your opinion with the rule changes. We're just going back quickly because we're at the end of the episode anyway. Just quickly with the rule changes and stuff. Do you think that it almost feels like World Rugby's trying to push rugby union into a rugby league type thing with their rule changes in terms of no mark being called and stuff? Do you think they envy a bit when they look at the growth that league has got over the past couple of years?
It's funny that you said so, and I've heard people talk about that in the past, but I'm gonna be that guy and say no. I can't see. Yes, obviously rugby league is growing at a rapid pace and people are finding it more exciting and stuff, but in order to keep rugby as like what's the word? To keep it as if it's rugby union and not rugby league, I think if they stay as far as possible away from rugby league laws and stuff like that, the two sports can coexist. But in order to, if you make it too similar to rugby league, I think the rugby league will trump rugby union within the next 20 years.
Yeah, in terms of spectacle to watch, yeah, fair enough. Because you want people most likely want to see running rugby and stuff, and that's what rugby league gets you. So rugby union would do a good job in terms of trying to not be compared to rugby league. You want to kind of make it look like it's two different sports, like the NFL and rugby. I know it's a lot closer, but do not take away all this, everything when it comes to physicality. Have you seen some of the tackles that there is in rugby league? Like they understand that there is big hits, and fine, you get punished, but you don't get banned for 12 weeks because you took out whoever's the biggest guy in rugby league. It's a hit. It's one of those things. The commentators actually embrace it. Like they hear that tackle, and it's not like, oh, that's cynical. He has to go off for a red. They're like, wow, massive fucking hit. And it's just like, okay, well, guy sent off. And then it's like, how are you going to cope with it? That's kind of the thing.
Yeah. So for me, I'm as anti-rugby league as it gets. I cannot stand rugby league. I think it's like pretty much like our country. It's a bit lawless. And I like structure. I like stuff that when it works out and you're like, I like rules in a sense. I also don't, but I do. So I think it's too lawless for me. I maybe don't understand it well enough, but this is not a rugby league podcast, so that's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah. Anyway, we've come to the end of the episode, and we were whining a bit, and we were also full of praise, and that just exemplifies how much we really and truly love this game. Like, we wouldn't run a podcast like this if it wasn't for the love and the passion that we have about this game. And sometimes you have to talk about the hardships in the game, and other times you have to talk about the great stuff and the stuff that you love in this game. That's why I feel like this episode was an important one. It's a shame that Brevan couldn't join us, but I'm sure he'll still be watching. He'll be in the comments like he always is. Thank you to everyone for liking, subscribing, and joining us on this journey. 50 away from 1,000. Thank you very much. We truly appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time.
Yes, again, boys, every time you never let me do my outro. So I sent Evan Roos a DM on Instagram to get him onto this podcast. So if you come this far in the episode, please send Evan Roos a DM and say, go on to Safa's Unscripted podcast. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.